Possession game is one of the most unstoppable playstyles in eFootball, but only if you actually understand how to structure it. Because let's be honest, most people keep the ball, but they don't create anything. So in this series, I'm going to show you some of the most effective formations to fix that. Let's start with the 4-3-3. This is the most basic possession game formation, and honestly, it works for almost any type of player. With 3 midfielders and natural width from the wingers, you get triangles all over the pitch. That alone makes it one of the best structures for possession football. You also have enough bodies to press high, recover the ball quickly, and at the same time stretch the pitch, which is very important in possession game because it creates space for your attacks. So it gives you that balance between control, pressing, and chance creation. Now let's show you exactly how to set it up so it actually works in game. For the goalkeeper, you want to go with an attacking goalkeeper. Even though possession game is not as aggressive as quick counter, you're still playing a relatively high line. That helps you press, suffocate your opponent, and win the ball back quickly to maintain possession. So your goalkeeper needs to be able to sweep behind that line and cover the space. Now, for the fullbacks, this is very important. The best profile here is actually fullback finishers. Personally, I usually prefer attacking fullbacks, but for possession football, fullback finishers have an edge because of the way they move. They give you that element of surprise. Instead of always overlapping, they make underlapping runs, drift into central areas, and take up spaces your wingers leave behind. That makes your attack less predictable and more dangerous. That said, it still depends on your squad. I don't really have high-rated fullback finishers, so I stick with attacking fullbacks, and they still work very well. But one thing I wouldn't recommend here is using 2 defensive fullbacks. You'll struggle to create chances, and even keeping possession becomes harder because you lose that extra support in attack. Now for your center backs, make sure you have at least 1 build-up center back. I don't always like to overemphasize play styles for defenders, but this one is very important. That build-up center back should be the one you're always looking for when you're starting your attacks. Now, because you're playing a high line and you want to press aggressively, you should pair him with a destroyer. The destroyer is the one who steps out, engages early, and puts pressure on attackers. He's more aggressive, more proactive, and he helps you win the ball back quickly before your opponent can even settle. So while your build-up defender gives you control on the ball, the destroyer gives you that defensive intensity off it. And that balance is exactly what you need in this system. Let's get into the midfield. You're playing a midfield triangle here with a single pivot, and this player is very important. First of all, he has to be an anchor man. That's non-negotiable. An anchor man is important in every play style, but in possession game, his role goes beyond just protecting the defense. He's your reference point. He's always there for you to recycle the ball and keep the play flowing. You don't want someone who moves around too much like an orchestrator. You want someone who holds his position, so whenever you need an outlet, he's right there. That's what keeps your possession stable. Now, in terms of attributes, his defensive stats should be very high, ideally in the 90s. Speed is not that important here, but positioning, awareness, and physical presence are key. And very importantly, he needs to be good on the ball. His passing has to be reliable because he'll be recycling play constantly. Around 85 for both low and lofted passes is good enough. So overall, you're looking for someone who is defensively solid, physically strong, and composed enough to keep the ball moving. Get this role right, and your entire midfield will feel much more stable. Now, since you're trying to keep possession, your next midfielder, that first central midfielder, should ideally be an orchestrator. In fact, this one is very specific. An orchestrator works best for this role. He's the one who moves around, shows for the ball, and constantly gives you passing options. So while your anchor man is always there as a stable outlet, this guy is the one who comes closer to you, supports play, and helps you progress the ball. If you can't find him, you go back to the anchor. That's the relationship. So think of it like this: one stays, one moves. That balance is what keeps your possession flowing. Now, if you decide to use an inactive play style here, you have to be very careful. You need to actually watch how the player behaves and make sure he consistently comes short to receive the ball. That's very important. That's why an orchestrator is the safest and most reliable option for this role. In terms of attributes, his passing has to be elite. 90 plus is ideal. Tight possession is also very important because he'll be receiving the ball under pressure a lot. Around 90, there's perfect. Dribbling doesn't have to be crazy, but it should still be decent. Around mid to high 80s is fine. Balance is also important so that he can stay stable when turning or holding off pressure. And of course, skills like one-touch pass are essential for quick combinations. Get this roll right, and your entire system becomes much smoother and easier to control. Now for the last midfielder. This one is very crucial in this system, because you don't always have players making direct runs into the box. You need someone who can arrive there at the right time. So ideally, this role fits best with a whole player. A whole player works perfectly here because you already have wingers stretching the pitch. That creates space in the middle, and this is the player who should be attacking those spaces, arriving late, filling gaps, and supporting the final third. As you continue, you'll understand why this role is so important in this setup. You can also use a box-to-box, but only if he's very attack-minded. Players like Bellingham can work, but you have to be careful. Not every box-to-box fits here. You need one that actually makes forward runs and contributes in the final third. Now for attributes. Pace is the most important, at least 85 speed and acceleration. Attacking awareness is also key, minimum 75 or higher, so he can actually time his runs. Dribbling should be solid, so he can carry the ball in tight areas. And tight possession is important because this is a positional system where small spaces matter. He also needs decent balance and the ability to turn quickly under pressure. And of course, one-touch pass is very important because most of his actions will be quick combinations around the edge of the box. Get this role right, and your attacking structure becomes much more dangerous and unpredictable. For the wingers, in possession game, you need players who can stretch the pitch. So prolific wingers usually work best. They stay wide, hold the width, and help you create space for everything happening in the middle. But you can also use roaming flanks. They still stay relatively wide, but they come inside at the right moments to support play. So they're also a good option depending on how you want to play. You can even use creative playmakers out wide. In this system, it's more about the attributes than just the play style. Now for what they need. They have to be quick, good speed, and acceleration. They need strong dribbling, so they can beat players and operate in tight spaces. Finishing is also important, because they'll get into goal-scoring positions quite often. And since possession game creates a lot of crossing opportunities, they need good crossing ability. So their lofted pass and overall passing should be at a high level. Finally, they need good attacking awareness, so they can position themselves properly and take advantage of the spaces that open up. Get your wingers right, and your entire attack becomes much more dangerous and well-balanced. Now, for the center forward. A deep-lying forward works best here, especially because of how possession game works. He'll often drop deep to receive the ball, and when he does that, he creates space for your whole player and even your wingers to move into. That movement is very important because it helps you create openings without forcing anything. But because he's dropping deep a lot, he has to have high attacking awareness. That's what allows him to play the ball and then immediately make that return run into space so you can find him again in dangerous areas. So it's not just about coming short, it's about playing the ball and going again. Now for attributes. Tight possession is very important. Around 85 is good. Most deep-lying forwards already have this. Dribbling doesn't have to be elite, but it should still be decent. Around 80 is fine, so he can control and turn. He also needs good kicking power and finishing, because a lot of the time, you'll find him shooting from around the edge of the box. His passing shouldn't be poor either. Even something like 75 is enough, so he can link play properly. And for skills, one-touch pass and through passing are very important for this role. Get this right, and your attack will feel much more fluid and much harder to defend. Now, if you struggle defensively when playing possession game, then this next formation might suit you better. That's the 4-2-3-1. It's a lot safer, and it makes ball retention easier because of the double pivot. Now, everything I said about the back line still applies, so let's go straight into the midfield. For your double pivot, one of them has to be an anchor man. That's non-negotiable. Then, the best partner for him is an orchestrator but not the same type you'd use in a 4-3-3. In the 4-3-3, it is better to use more attack-minded orchestrators like Pedri or McAllister because they're playing higher up the pitch and have the energy to go up and down. But in this system, it's better to use a more reserved orchestrator. Players like Xabi Alonso or Pep Guardiola. Guys who are comfortable playing deep, have better defensive awareness, and can control the game from that deeper position. So instead of someone constantly pushing forward, you now have someone who sits beside your anchorman, helps you keep your shape, and still gives you those passing options from deep. Now, for your side midfielders, I would recommend using 2 whole players in those positions, or at least inactive style attackers like prolific wingers. Just avoid cross specialists there. If you use them properly, they can actually be more dangerous than traditional wingers because they will be making their runs from deep. They drop into midfield, combine in tight spaces, and then burst forward into attacking positions. That makes them very hard for opponents to track. And in this system, it's also easier to cut inside with a wide midfielder than with a traditional winger, because wingers are usually already high up near the final third. So you have more space to operate from deeper areas. They need good dribbling, good tight possession, good speed, and importantly, they should be able to shoot from range and also cross when needed. So think of players who can both cut inside and deliver quality balls. Long-range curler skill, pinpoint crossing, and good attacking awareness are all important. Now for your AMF, since your side midfielders are already acting like runners and inside attackers, your AMF has to be the link. So this is where a creative playmaker fits best. He is the one connecting everything together, receiving the ball under pressure, and distributing it to your runners and striker. He needs very good ball control, tight possession, dribbling, and above all, elite passing. One-touch passing and through passing are very important here because he's constantly involved in quick combinations. Now for your striker, I recommend a goal poacher, especially if you're using a creative playmaker at AMF. Because while your side midfielders are making runs and your AMF is linking play, the striker is the one finishing those moves. So a goal poacher who attacks space and stays sharp in the box works perfectly. You can also use a deep lying forward or a supporting striker if you want more link-up play, but then you would need to adjust the rest of your midfield structure to balance it properly. But the key idea is this. Among your front 3 midfield roles, at least one must be a creative playmaker and the other should be runners, preferably whole players. And between your AMF and striker, one should drop to link play, while the other should consistently attack space behind the defense. Now, if you want even more control in midfield and you really want to frustrate your opponent, then the formation for you is the 4-1-4-1. It's a very stable setup that gives you strong control through the middle, makes it easier to keep possession, and keeps you solid defensively. Now, you'll notice that this formation is actually a hybrid of the first 2 setups we already covered. It carries the same diamond midfield structure you get in the 4-3-3, but at the same time, it also uses side midfielders instead of traditional wingers, just like the 4-2-3-1. So it basically blends both systems together, central control and wide midfield support. Again, your defensive midfielder, you already know you should use an anchorman. That's still the base of everything here. Then for the 4 midfielders ahead of him, in no particular order, you want 1 orchestrator, 1 creative playmaker, and 2 whole players. And the key thing here is that all of them have to be very comfortable on the ball, especially in tight spaces, because the whole idea is to keep possession, rotate it, move your opponent side to side, and slowly drag them out of shape until gaps start appearing. So things like tight possession and one-touch passing are very important across that midfield. Then for your center forward, you just want someone that fits into that structure, someone who can finish moves and work with those midfield rotations, just like the previous setups we talked about. And that's it. If this helped, then leave a like and let me know in the comments section which formation and playstyle you'd like me to break down next. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.